Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. This is Moyna Bass Fishes. I am Jim Moyna, professional bass fisherman, and this video is going to be my tournament recap for the Champions 2024 Champions Tour Tournament here on Lake Okoboji in Iowa. So, let's start off by saying I finished 60th place, or not 60th place, 6th place, sixth place out of about 60. I don't know if they had 60 or 65 boats in this tournament, but that's where they cap it off at. So that's where I finished, which I'm okay with that, because my goal was to try to catch, I felt like I could catch enough fish that I'd have a 20 fish total, and I ended up with 19 fish. So one shy of the goal, but it's all right, because I felt like a 20 fish total would land me at least in the money, and you never know, if you stumble into something, you might catch more. But I didn't really stumble into anything. I started, and they split the lake in half. There's an east-west, there's an east Okoboji, and then a west Okoboji. So, and each angler you had to fish both halves. One half in the afternoon, one in the morning, and each angler got to pick which half he wanted to fish during which part of the day. So I chose to fish West Okoboji because I felt like I had my best opportunity to catch over 10 fish. So I'm thinking, okay, I could maybe catch over 10 in West Okoboji, and then over in East, hopefully I can catch 10 there, which would be really good. But at least I could get a good start on my way to 20. So how it went down is, gosh, this video could go on for hours, because there's a lot to be said. So anyway, so I'm starting in West, and I found some fish out in some curly leaf pondweed. And this is what I did with those fish. Okay, I found the first day I was here was last Thursday, and that's when I found these fish, was on Thursday. That Thursday, my first day out here. And I thought this lake it was my first thing I looked at when I got here. And I thought this lake was going to be incredible, and it is a really good fishing lake. But I thought I was just going to be stupid off the charts to catch fish, because the first place I look at, I find these fish. First bass I caught out here was a 5-pounder off of that place. So I caught that fish. I caught some other fish. I felt like there was a school there. Didn't exactly know how many, but just from the fishing I did on the Thursday, I figured it wasn't a big school. It was just, just a decent group of fish. Well, I looked for that out here. Couldn't find, more spots like that. Couldn't find any more spots like that in the curly leaf pondweed. I would find like single fish, one here, one there, but I never. I did have one other deep curly leaf pondweed spot where I did catch like 4 or 5 in practice. So yeah, I did have that, but but then I had just single fish here and there, and just randomly in miscellaneous curly leaf. So, but there's a lot that I didn't even look at. Didn't even get a chance to fish, because once I got enough fish out here, in the first couple practice days, once I got enough fish located on this side, then I went over to East to try to figure that side out. And they're completely different bodies of water. West is clear, you got weeds growing at 20 feet. It's super clear. East, you got a big algae bloom starting underway. The water's got limited visibility, and it was just, so when I went over to East, it was just a nightmare. I could not, the first day I was over there, I caught one fish that was blind in one eye, and you can never make a pattern off of a one-eyed fish, because they're always kind of doing their own thing. So I caught that one. And then the next day I went out there. I did catch one other fish. And that was it. And another short, I caught one other fish and a short one right in the same little area in a different spot. Which, and then, but that was that first day here, first day on East, okay? The next day I went to East, and then again, I just could not catch nothing. I mean, I was fishing all kinds of different things. I was did a lot of sonar looking, a lot of side scanning, down scanning with my Lowrance units, and when I'd find something, I'd fish it, and I wouldn't catch nothing other than sunfish nibbles, which there's a million sunfish out here. So it was kind of a disaster, really, until I went to some of these little lakes connected to East Okoboji, and then I started catching bass that were fry guarding, which I'm never happy catching fry guarding bass because they're typically are males. Males are typically on average are smaller than the females, and you're catching them one at a time. Whereas this time of year, right after the spawn, there's still some fish spawning out here, by the way, and there's like a 3.5 to 4 pounder out here that I can't catch. But anyhow, because I tried to catch it, but I didn't try real hard because in this format, it's a catch-all-you-can format. So anyways, so I'm over on the east side over there, finding these fry guarders. They're not, they're not the big ones. They're just keepers. It's a 2-pound minimum to score in this tournament. Boy, the gnats here are just insane. I mean, that's why I got this thing. Because the gnats are just biting me up like crazy. They're getting around my ears and around my neck. So we're going to go with this look, all right? Okay, and I never wear these things. But here, man, when it gets calm, it's still kind of breezy. And these gnats are bugging me. Anyhow, so over on East, fry garters. That's what I got going. I'm hoping if things go really well, I can catch 10 fry garters over there. And I tried other stuff over there. I couldn't figure it. I don't know what the females were doing. I could not figure nothing out. So fry garters it was over on East. And I spent all that time over there, and I never really got a chance to come back to West to try to search for more of that school type situation. But I did take a little bit of time to recheck those fish I found on the first day out on Thursday. And they actually, so I had a series of waypoints laid out, and I fished through that series of waypoints and never had a bite. And then I got off that waypoint. I got a little bit off that set of waypoints, maybe 20 yards. And then I had a hook cut off on my all-terrain jig tipped with a billy rub flutter craw, and then I found a couple of fish, and then I got out of there. Well, not quite yet. So I found that little group. Basically, I had 2 bites and I had one follow it up in one small area. So I'm like, okay, well, they must be right here, and I laid a waypoint, a new one, right on that spot. And then I fished around some more, and I had 2 other just random bites that were singles because I couldn't get any more bites off of those same pitches with the all-terrain jig, AT jig. So, but I'm like, okay, at least this is gonna have to be. So when it came down to deciding where I was going to start this tournament, East or West, I decided West, and I'd start on that school of fish. And that's what I did. I also learned on West that I spent a couple hours late in the day on West just fishing docks, and there were some fish in the docks too, and a couple of them were big. But you had to work for them. Then they weren't going to come fast and furious, so I just wasn't really hip on that. I probably should have spent that practice time looking for more deep weed fish, but nonetheless. But then I also found like a 3.5 to 4 pound largemouth on a bed, which I told you I tried to catch, and um, it wasn't a green. It wasn't a green. Somebody, it could be caught. I seriously feel like somebody could have caught that if you put in the time, and but I wasn't willing to put in that kind of time because while you're trying to catch a 3.5 to 4 pounder, you might be missing out on, let's say it takes you 40 minutes to catch it, you might be missing out on catching 4 2-pounders or a 5-pounder and a couple 3-pounders somewhere else. So if it wasn't going to be easy, forget it. I'm not doing it. All right, so that's why I started on West, because I had my school. That was my best chance to get multiple fish in one area, and then so I had that. Then I had my other area where I caught 3 or 4, and then if I had time allowed, I had a couple other places where there were some random fish throughout some weed beds. All right, so now tournament morning, which was this morning, I go out boat 30 and nobody's over there, so I get set up on that new waypoint that I just set yesterday because that's where the fish moved to, and we can't start fishing until 7, and I'm there like got there a little early, so I got set up, got to where got my casts lined up and all that. 7 o'clock, and meanwhile another angler is probably about 2 long casts away, maybe even slightly farther. And and he's happy, and I talked to him later. Well, he was very happy where he was because that's where the fish were when he found them. So anyhow, 7 o'clock hits and we start fishing, and I start with a bladed jig, and I'm not catching. I'm just working it over the tops of the curly leaf, and I'm not catching nothing, and I'm throwing right at the waypoint. Then I start fan casting around a little bit, nothing's happening. And meanwhile, I'm seeing the other guy, he's not catching nothing. Then I pick up a jig, and finally I catch my first scoreable fish. It was like a 2, 3, or 4 pounder, or 2 pounds 3 ounces, 2 pounds 4 ounces, something like that. So I'm like, okay, they're on this jig, they're not on this bladed jig. So now I throw the jig in there right where I just caught that one a bunch of times, nothing. Then I start fan casting around with the jig, and I'm catching nothing. And the whole time I'm spot locked with my Minn Kota right in this one position. So now I'm thinking, okay, from Thursday to the last day of practice, they moved. Okay, so now I'm thinking, okay, from the last day of practice, which was yesterday, till now, which was this morning, I guess, I wonder if these fish moved again. So I unspot lock, and then I just start moving. I'm not moving fast. I'm just not moving, but I just start fan casting around, and I decided to pick up my chatterbait again, just so I can, because I felt like there's enough fish in that school that you could trigger at least one of them to give away a location. And I'm going around, and then I just start casting like totally where there's absolutely no waypoints the other direction. I'm still throwing to the curly pondweed, but it's completely the other direction, and I got no waypoints over there, none. And I throw it over there, and I'm reeling it, and all of a sudden I just feel this like boom, 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 like that. And I'm like, am I hitting the weed tops? What? That's pretty sure that's a fish. And I'm thinking, a little northern sometimes will do that to your bait, but so will bass. And I keep reeling, and I felt another bump, and I'm not hooking nothing. It's just little bumps like this. So, and I say something to my marshal, John. I'm like, John, I'm not sure what that was. It was a little northern or sun. Then I'm like, no, it's not a sunfish. So I made a second cast right to where I just casted and had those bumps, because I've seen this before. And now I start hooking up fish. 1, And I mean, pretty much every cast on this angle, I'm hooking up a fish. Sometimes they're non-scoreable, sometimes they're scoreable. Well, I ended up catching, and it was fun. I mean, it's fun when you get on a group like that. So I ended up catching, so I had the first jig fish, and then I caught 12 out of the school. The last 2 came on a Billy Rub's Tricky D worm on a drop shot, because they wouldn't hit the chatterbait or the bladed jig anymore. It was a thunder cricket, if you must know. So, but I spent a lot of time, once the bite died, I spent a lot of time trying to refire things, trying to catch one last fish out of there. And I ended up burning some time. And I was at the top of the leaderboard for a good part of that first morning. But I could not catch fish. And I ended up unspot locking from that new waypoint from this morning. And I started just milling around, trying to find some other random fish, because there was always random fish the other 2 times I practiced in there, and I could not catch any random fish. The other guy that was by me, he didn't move. He pulled out when he saw me catching all those fish on the bladed jig. I mean, he was moving around too, but he ended up just leaving, because that's a tough position to be in, where you see one guy just drilling them. And to his credit, he didn't like just try to move right in onto where I was casting, and he laid off. So Brian, really appreciate that, Brian. That's great sportsmanship and etiquette. Brian Bankston's his name, and really appreciate that. So anyhow, so I ended up giving up on the spot. I ended up staying there too long, trying to get one last fish, and it's just a bad idea trying to get that one last fish, because you burn up too much time trying to get that one last. So then I went to my number 2 spot. I was there probably about 5 minutes, and then I'd catch a keeper. It was like a 2-2 or something. Score that one. Drop the jig back, and this is on the AT jig. Drop that back down in the curly leaf pondweed, and that very next cast I catch another one, but short. And so now I'm like, okay, we're in business here. And that was it. Never had another bite there. So then I run to my next spot, and now we only got like 20 minutes left to fish in the first morning half. And go to my next spot, drop the trolling motor down. No power to the trolling motor. So, okay, I have seen this before, earlier this year and twice 2 years ago. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's a loose connection. So I check all the connections on my trolling motor batteries. They're all tight. So then I'm like, well, it was a bumpy ride, so maybe the bumpy ride knocked something haywire. So then I'm like, okay, let's go run over close to weigh-in, and maybe the bumpy ride over to there will knock things back right. Get back to near the weigh-in. Still no power of the trolling motor. Okay. I've seen this before. It's usually one of these lithium batteries. And sure enough, that is what it was. It was kind of hectic because, okay, with this format, we actually have a 30-minute break midday where everybody comes back to take off, and you turn in your morning scorecard. They give you a lunch to eat. You kind of regroup, maybe re-rig a few rods, whatever. In my case, I spent my 30-minute lunch break. I put the boat on the trailer, because at the time I didn't know it was a battery. Joel Willard came by with a volt tester, so we could test the batteries. Thank you, Joel. Another guy offered his Fortrex trolling motor if I needed it. Thank you. His name, I can't remember his name right now. Sorry, but I really appreciate that. So, but anyways, Joel put the tester on each of the 3 trolling motor batteries. 2 of them read 13 volts, one read -8 volts. I don't know how you read negative 8 volts, but it did. So I carry a spare battery with me, and I never changed a battery out so fast in my life because I actually had to remove one battery just so I could get back further into the well. A lot of gnats here, and pull out the bad battery. So pulled that out, reinstalled the old one of the old ones, and then the new one. And I made it in time for my boat number for the afternoon takeoff, which was pretty, I'd surprised myself. And that was the problem, was just the battery. So I had no more trolling motor issues the rest of the day. But now we're going over to East Lake, East Okoboji, and I think I was in 3rd or 4th place because I gave up the lead late in that half because I just wasn't catching fish. Got over there, and the plan was to fish fry garters. I had one fish on a bed that I found that was super easy to catch, but I think somebody caught it in the morning session, and I don't know, the fish wasn't there for whatever reason. Either somebody caught it and it didn't go back, whatever, it wasn't there. But then I had a little weed mat where I caught one in practice. Worked that for about 10 minutes and actually caught one. That was my first afternoon fish. Tried some other places, nothing, and then I went to my fry garter pattern, and then it was just a slow deal. Ended up catching 6 fish, scoreable fish, in the afternoon session on fry garter. I did get one that was 315, so that was a nice fry garter, and it was guarding fry because after I caught him, I could see over there was fry over there. So, so that was a blessing. But then I lost 2, of course. You can't always get them all in. And so I ended up 6th place. All right, so let's talk about the bait. Let's show you some baits, all right? Here's the bait part. All right. What I have on this deck are my afternoon baits. So we're going to start with the afternoon baits over in the East Okoboji and the fry garter pattern. Okay. I'm not going to show you those rods because I caught nothing on those. Didn't use them much either. All right, so all my baits, all 6 of my bass in the afternoon session came on these 2 rods, and they're tangled because that's what happens on the rough boat ride back. They get tangled. Okay, well, all right. So like I said, I scored 6 fish in the afternoon session. Oh, it's going to come untangled now. I was just going to show you the whole mess. All right, that there is the Billy Rub Baits stickworm right there. Okay, there's a lot of cottonseed and algae that's hanging on there. I got a little weight in there, so it sinks a little faster. Usually I go like with a 16th or something like that, or 330, no, yeah, 16th, or even a little bit less sometimes, depending. So in this case, that was a 16th. So four of my 6 fish were caught on that. Those are all the fry garters. And then the one in the matted crap was on this, that's just your beaver style bait with a 1 ounce weight, punching it through. It's not exactly how it should be rigged up right now. There's a plastic worn through, but it is Texas rig, and then just flipping it in that gunk algae mat. That's how I caught the first one in the second half. And then I actually caught a fry garter on that because it just looked like a nice juicy clump of weeds where a fry garter might be hanging out up near shore, and I pitched it over through that little mat, and one grabbed it. In fact, I saw Actually, I saw the fish make a swirl. It's a typical swirling motion that a fry guarder will do sometimes. And whenever you see that, I mean, I've seen enough of it that whether it's Florida or wherever, Sandy Cooper, wherever, I've seen enough of it over the years where when I see that swirl and it's spawning time, I know that's a fry garter. So that's why I pitched that over there by that weed, through the weed. I had to push it because he came out of the weed mat, made the swirl, and then I'm assuming he went back under it. So I pulled that out, well, it was already on the deck, and flipped that over there. It punched through the floating weeds, and then he bit it. All right, so that is that. Now, all the morning rods, I just put them in the, except for this one. Oh, now we're tangled. These two rods are still tangled. So, the jig I was talking about, the all-terrain jig, it's AT jig. Now this frog really is getting into everything. What's going on here? When you're coming down the last minute in the tournament, that's the frog I used today a little bit. Nothing. I don't know if there was frog bite was on or not. I don't know. Yesterday I caught a few on a frog. Last day of practice. All right, so here's the AT jig. It's the heaviest one with a billy rub flutter craw on there, and that was the jig I was using. Some guys some guys will use like a grass jig, but I like to use this HE jig because I'm really a big believer in its hookup ratio. Like, I really hook up really well. So if I can fish this through the weeds, it doesn't come quite through the weeds as well as a swim jig or a grass jig, but I really like the hookup ratio on it. All right, so now the bladed jig was put in here because I had nowhere to use it on the East Okoboji. So we'll show you that. And that's the bladed jig I used right there. It's a Thunder Cricket. Thanks, Thunder Cricket. Although I have a lot of the jackhammers, I just happened to grab this one. This was because it was 3/4. I had these 3/4, so I'm like, that's what I want to try to use. And in practice, I caught some fish on this. Gave me the confidence that I could use this, and it worked well. The trailer on there is a Rumble Craw by Billy Rub Baits, and it's a new larger size, and I tear one claw off of there. Even my co-angler was like, hey, did you do that on purpose? I'm like, yeah, I did that on purpose. And then I rig it like that, sideways. Don't ask me if that really matters, because I have no idea. It's just what I thought might work. So, anyways, that's what I did. Now, the last thing that counted. This was the finesse, more of a finesse bait. Although it's on a power shot type setup here. This is the Billy Rub Baits Tricky D. That's a watermelon with some blue flake in it. You can see how long the leader is. It's maybe a foot long. And I like a foot long. If there's a lot of carpety grass if there's a lot of short grass under the tall grass, I feel like I got to have a longer leader there, longer distance between the bait and the sinker, just to keep the bait above that that just lower level, ground level stuff. Otherwise, it'll pull. You know, if I got a short leader, it'll pull it right down in there where the bass won't get. They won't be able to get to it. That's my thought. Who knows? Could be wrong. All right, so there you have it. Congratulations to the winner, Hunter Went. It's interesting, and boy, just a lot of interesting things went down today with other anglers and stuff, and just hearing some of the stories that they had to say at the weigh-in. Just interesting times. But yeah, Hunter Went. I think he had like almost 100 pounds. So that's a big weight, and apparently he had a fantastic day fishing. He must have. He won. So that was cool. Congrats to Hunter. And just one final thing I'll say. There are also the other pattern out here was docks, but I don't know. But I didn't really hear of anybody doing super well on the docks. The other pattern was bedding smallmouths. It was really windy today, but still there were some guys that fought through it and cashed checks. So that was another pattern, which I never really got onto, especially when I saw the wind forecast. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing that. And plus, I felt like I could produce largemouths at a decent rate to contend. All right, well, that's it from Lake Okoboji. It's the first time I've ever been here. It's a lake full of fish, all kinds of fish. I've never seen so many sunfish in my life in one lake. Probably I haven't seen so many carp. Well, yes, I have. Kentucky Lake's got more carp, but for lakes up here, and these are the European carp, the ones that have been here forever. Man, there's just some tanks of them things swimming around. So those are pretty cool. There's drum like crazy out here. You could go catch all kinds of drum. There's walleye, smallmouth, largemouth, and silver pike. There's a fish called the silver pike, which I don't ever remember hearing about silver pike. But apparently they're out here because one of the other competitors, his name's Sobe, he showed me a picture of one that he caught today. He didn't know if it was a muskie or what he'd heard of as being a silver pike. So I'd never heard of him, but it was a big one. Yeah, it was pretty cool. All right, well, these gnats are really getting to me, and I think I'm done saying what I'm going to say. So that's it. Thanks for watching this tournament recap. And that's it. Over.